I'm happy to have you here, Nancy. We're going to have an energy talk. Could you please tell a little bit more about yourself before we head off?
Okay. I'm Nancy Mayer. I am an American. I've lived in the Netherlands for 29 years. And I started off my career as a singer of classical music. I did a lot of medieval music and Baroque music. And slowly over time, I started to teach more. And so I've been teaching singing now for about 25 years, maybe a little more. And as time has gone on, I've started to sing less and teach more. So I have a very big studio now and give singing and speaking lessons.
Right here in The Hague.
In The Hague, yes.
Yes. Well, I was very intrigued by your singing lessons. And why is that? Because in my work as a coach and somatic therapist, I work with a method which is called breathwork. And one of the interventions I do is invite people to make sounds when I see that there's a lot of tension in their bodies and they don't naturally release those tensions in the form of crying or moving. So I just actually found out that it is really nice to invite their voices in the scheme of the breathwork
That's
session.
amazing. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, like, for what reason do people come to you for singing lessons?
Quite a lot of different reasons. I think the thing that ties it together is wanting to feel more confident in some way in singing, in speaking, using their voice, feeling a little more present. So it's generally what people are looking for is the idea that they can feel better doing the singing, that they can take it further, that they can feel like something they can do, something they feel good about, something, and it's usually something they like to do already, and they want to enjoy it more. So yeah, sort of building up their sense of ability, building up their sense of that they can work on it, that they can improve. So I would say the confidence is what most people are seeking in one way or another. Everybody's looking for something slightly different.
And it's not always that they point it out from the beginning, right? Because that's what I've noticed in my work, that like in every session we just find out to what direction they want to move to, but they come with an initial thought or problem situation, like for example, I want to give presentations and make use of my voice in a natural, right way.
Exactly.
Yes, and then in the course of the sessions, or in your case lessons, you'll notice that you become more confident while you are doing it.
Right. They realize that they can do more, that they can improve, that it can feel better, more natural, there's less tension. So there's all different things that can happen, and we don't really know what's going to happen. So that confidence comes just from doing it, trying things out, realizing that it's not so scary, that maybe they can get to whatever goal they had. For some people, that's doing an audition for a choir, or for a solo in a musical, or for doing their presentation, just speaking a little louder without feeling like they're shouting.
And why is that? Because they're thinking that they're shouting?
For some people who speak very quietly or are shy, speaking in a normal range can feel like shouting. I've come across that quite a lot. People think I'm shouting, I'm and it doesn't feel nice, and they don't like how it sounds. So the getting used, doing some body work, doing some breathing, some posture, some feeling like their body can relax and make a good sound at the same time is freeing, because then they don't feel like it's a shout. It's just speaking a little louder, speaking with some confidence.
It reminds me of the inner critic, like that expression that you shared about, okay, it feels like I'm shouting. It relates to what someone's perception is of themselves.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And that could have come from, the past. It could have come from other people. It could have come from not liking when other people are speaking loudly, that it's disruptive to them. And so they don't want to do that. And that's the inner critic saying, that's not right. We can't do that. That's not good. Doesn't feel good. And trying to undo that a little bit and get to a place where just, using your voice is okay, and maybe using it in a louder way is to gain attention from someone who's at the other end of the room. It doesn't have to be to shout at anyone, but just to be heard.
Yes,
that way.
Yeah, and it's helpful, of course, when you are in the room and you can give that feedback.
Exactly. That sometimes if I ask someone to speak louder, I can say, that's just enough. When they feel like they were really shouting. That's the minimum of what you need to use. So it's a different perception, and also, getting feedback.
Yes.
To say that you can go further than this, and that's okay, and it doesn't sound like you're yelling.
Yeah. Well, interesting. What I found out in breathing sessions with clients is that when they hear their own voice at the beginning, it feels uncomfortable, and I've heard the remark, "Oh, this sounds horrible," so often. Like this really doesn't sound like my voice, or
right.
It's ugly, and what I do actually to guide them through that part, because it's such a harsh voice, right, that comes up immediately, and it impacts their breathing. It impacts how they open up more to invite their voice. So what I do is just tell them, firstly, like, if you do it more often, you'll get used to it, and maybe you will reach a point, and most times they will reach that point. Is that they can receive their voice without any
judgment.
Judgment.
Yeah. That happens in the studio as well for singers as well. They say, "Oh, that just sounds terrible. It's awful. It's not a sound I want to make." But I think for most of us, when we hear our voices on a recording, it doesn't sound like how it sounds to everyone else, and because it's inside, so our voices sound different to us than they do to anyone else, and that perception is very weird. And to hear themselves make a sound that maybe isn't beautiful is hard. And I usually like to say, let's get away from how it sounds, but more how it feels. If it feels good, if your singing is good, if your speaking is good, if it's healthy and it's relaxed, chances are you're going to like that sound better. So for me, it's more of let's change the conversation to I didn't like how it sounds, to how does it feel? And then so taking it away from your judgment of what that sound was like. For you, that's probably a different issue because they're dealing with emotion, serious, heavy emotion. And so those sounds might be very different than the sounds they're making for me. So I try and just sort of redefine or reframe it to, let's focus on the feeling, and the better the feeling, probably the nicer the sound. And they will like that sound a little more. I hope.
No, yes, yeah, I can fully imagine that happens. Yes, because you are deriving them from their thoughts and focusing them more on their body.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Taking it away from, is it pretty or is it not pretty, to what's the most comfortable.
Yes, and in terms of like body posture and breathing, what are the things that you work on, like from the first lesson that you give, and someone comes in with a question, and you know that like the underlying question is, I want to feel more confident. So what would you point out? Or
well, I usually start any student with explaining how the breathing works. Just the basic, showing them a diagram, showing the diaphragm, what it does. I ask them to lie on the ground to see how the breathing happens with gravity, so that you don't have to do anything. It's just so they know, because there's a lot of terminology with singers that people say, breathe from your diaphragm, and yes, the diaphragm is moving, but we're not really thinking about and making it move. It's moving on its own. So I like to explain it and leave it, so that if there are problems, we'll discuss them. But in general, we all know how to breathe. And if there aren't any huge issues there, we just leave it. We'll talk about posture, because posture is important so that the breathing works well. I've taken a lot of Alexander techniques, so I have ways of talking about the posture that are inviting relaxation, basically. So a lot of it has to do with releasing tension, and
releasing tension in order to free up the space in the body
to do what it can already do. It already knows how to breathe. It already knows how to. You might have bad posture, so we're going to have to discuss that a little bit.
I love that notion of that the breath knows what to do.
It does. It does.
Yeah, just that notion. Yeah, and the crazy thing is you can just receive that notion, like, okay, it's like that. And then I would think, but how? How do you do that? And of course, I can picture something about, okay, if you talk to someone in a relaxing way, you know, the body will relax and the tension will be less. Yeah, but what's the difference between knowing what the breath does, that the breath is doing its work?
It's so everyone has tension, right? We all have tension somewhere. In lessons, I'm trying to figure out how to help them release that tension, because maybe it's in the jaw, maybe it's in the back, maybe it's in the hips, maybe it's just, everyone has it somewhere. Everyone holds tension somewhere. For me, it's my shoulders. I get headaches, and I have to think about letting go there. So it's not as if we don't all have an issue and something to work on, but for me, it's more about letting go of tension so that the breath can do what it already knows how to do. We're breathing all day long. So if I see that there's like somebody's holding their breath a lot, then we're going to have to talk about that a little bit. We're going to have to explore maybe how to loosen that up, feel soft here, there's, so it's not as if I will ignore it. But I think if it's not an issue and your breathing is working well, and I do offer a breathing exercise, just a very general sort of fitness for breathing, so that the breath we can have a longer out breath. So breath is really central and really important for singing and speaking. But if it's not a problem, then I want to just figure out how to release tension so the body can do it on its own. and we don't have to think about it so much.
Yes. Well, yeah, what I noticed just when I'm reading books, somehow I anchor that with breathing naturally. Like it goes up and down, up and down. I'm not holding it. So reading is for me relaxation. Yeah, but I've also noticed that when I, for example, go for a run, I don't do that often, but but yeah, when I do some type of exercise, I notice my breathing more.
More active.
Yeah, it's more active.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I know it's there.
You're aware of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you make your students aware of their breathing?
Yeah, they're definitely aware of it if they don't have enough. If they can't get through a long phrase, they think, and I say, what was there anything wrong with that? Were you unhappy with that in any way? And they'll maybe say, yeah, I didn't get a good breath, right? I couldn't sing all the way through that. I ran out of breath. That's definitely, we're going to talk about that. And sometimes it has to do with timing, taking a breath in the right place, so that you get the longest breath you can, that you can extend your breath longer. So sometimes it's coordination, right? It's not that they're not breathing well, but that they're not breathing at the right moment, or they're not maybe they're not ready for a big phrase, and they have to sort of mentally be ready for it. So it's sort of figuring out what the issue is. It's not necessarily that they're not breathing well, but so sometimes they do have to be aware of it. Like you're saying, for running, you're suddenly aware of your breath being, active, doing more for you, and feeling it. Does it feel good? Does it not feel good? So it's a matter of learning how it should feel.
And do you do some kind of analysis during a first lesson of where the tension is in the body?
No. But I talk about all the places it might be. So we talk about, knees being soft and hips. Sometimes people hold a lot of tension in hips, so I ask them to just move their hips around. So I can see if that looks comfortable or not. I can see if they understand the breathing or not, and know that maybe we're going to have to talk about that more. Or, breathing seems fine. Breathing seems easy for you. Or if there's a ton of tension so I can kind of see it. I don't necessarily have to mention it, but I can see what maybe is going to be an issue. And I can ask them, do you know where you hold your tension? And usually they know. I clench my teeth at night. I have a very tight jaw. Yes, I always get back pain, shoulder pain. They know. Usually they know where things are sore. And so that just gives me some information as to what I need to be aware of for them.
Yes, and what you could eventually point out in further lessons.
Right,
Yes.
right, right.
Yeah. Well, and as you grow along with them, teaching them how to use their voice, and they grow more confident, do you remember any aha moments or any moments during your singing classes in which you felt immediately uplifted because one of your students were like, okay, they discovered something about their voice? Or
yeah, definitely. And those are so exciting.
Yes, they are
so exciting.
Yes.
I have a student who is a very, very strong inner critic. And she's very aware of it and talks about it. It's very hard for her to relax. She was singing something that was quite high for her and difficult, and we were really working on it, trying different things. And she sang a phrase just beautifully, easily. She let go. She was just singing. She wasn't thinking. And suddenly there was this beautiful sound, and she sort of looked around and said, was that me? Did I do that? And so I didn't have to say anything. I didn't have to tell her it was great. She knew it was great. So that was moments like that are really, really amazing because they recognize it. I don't have to say, that sounded really good. They felt it, and heard the sound. So just a moment of freedom. Another, something that happened very recently was really interesting and exciting. I had a student who was going to try out to sing a solo. And it was a musical theater piece, and we had worked on it already, and I had been playing along with her on the piano, so following her melody, and she was doing fine. And now we were working with karaoke. And so she was singing along with the karaoke, and her pitch wasn't great. She was just a little bit too low sometimes. She wasn't following the melody as it should be. And although this had been a problem in the past, it had never been this difficult for her. So we were talking about that, and she said, yeah, I can tell there's a problem, but I'm not sure. I think I know when it's happening, but I'm not sure when it's happening. I'm just not sure. And I said, okay, let's try something. And I wasn't really sure it was a good idea or not. And I took a risk with it. But I said, all right, you're going to sing along with the karaoke again. And this time I'm going to hold my finger up. If you're flat, if you're just under the pitch a little bit, just so you know when it is, because she thought she knew. And I thought this could be a really bad idea to do, and I hadn't done it before. So she started to sing, we turned the karaoke on, she started to sing, and I kept waiting for a moment to put my finger up, and she didn't need it. She was fine. She was doing really well. And I thought, this is incredible. I'm not doing anything, and she's doing better. And at the end, there was one point where I had to hold my finger up, where it wasn't quite on pitch. And so it ended, and I said, what happened? What happened there? And I had my own idea of what it was, but I decided not to say it. I wanted really to hear what her experience was. And she said, I take too much responsibility for things. All the time, for everyone, for myself, and I handed it over to you. So I didn't have to do anything. I just was singing. I didn't have to judge it. It was amazing, an amazing experience.
That's wonderful.
Because we both really learned something. I learned about her, what was happening, and she learned that she could let go and hand that over to me. And hopefully she can do that at home as well, right? Not just in the studio. And then I hope that continues, that she continues to be able to let go of the judgment, of the inner critic, of the I have to do everything all the time. Because then her singing improves, and it also felt better. She also felt freer. So,
this experience adds up to all the positive experiences that she will have with her voice.
Right. That's going to lead to the next realization, or it's going to, she can build on that. Sometimes things go backwards too sometimes. Excuse me.
But it's about building on the bodily experiences which were positive, and
right.
that you know how it feels when it is
right.
going well, when it is right.
That's the thing you can remember. Analyzing it in your brain is different, harder to hold on to. And I can tell someone 1,000,000 times, just sing, let go, relax. But if they feel it, in the moment that they feel it, and it's because they're doing something that makes sense to them, not what I told them to do necessarily, they'll really remember it. That's when the body goes, oh yeah, okay, we get it.
Yes.
right? And it's not because somebody told me to do it, but because they figured it out. So way more powerful, I think.
It is.
Way to learn.
Amazing.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Yes.
Very exciting.
Yeah, all these discoveries and all these people that are gaining confidence, you know, with every step that they're taking in the singing classes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you know, as a coach and somatic therapist, I am working with people who see themselves as highly sensitive.
Right.
But in the past 5 years, I've been receiving more and more clients who have been telling me I've been diagnosed with ADHD, with ADD, or I have dyslexia. And some of those people, I've actually needed to tell them that, oh, I think you are highly gifted. And they're like, oh, really? And some were like, yeah, I have read some about it. But what I found out is that people who are highly sensitive and highly gifted, they are quite modest. So they just enjoy learning, enjoy what they do, and they're doing it, and they're in their element while they're doing it, but they're not really so much talking about what they have achieved or all the knowledge that they have gained.
Right.
So that was really interesting. Yeah. And also in terms of, okay, I don't really like labels, but sometimes it's interesting to point out, for example, highly giftedness, so people start to understand themselves more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very useful, I think.
It is.
To understand what's happening, why their brain is different.
And why their brain wants more.
Right.
Yeah, because the clients that I've spoken to, they have full-time jobs, and what these people have told me, the highly sensitive and highly gifted people, they're like, I'm at work, I finished my project, I finished my task, and then somewhere in the afternoon, I'm just looking up other stuff, you know, about the universe, about planets, about other topics that I'm curious about.
Exactly.
And yeah, I'm doing it at work, and for one part, I feel guilty about it, but because I'm at work. But on the other hand, I finished all my tasks.
Right.
So
right.
It's also it's okay actually, but yeah.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to hear them, and also step by step experiencing that they feel more confident about themselves, only to hear back what I've experienced with other clients.
Right.
You know, like, okay, so you're not the only one.
And they're understanding themselves.
Yeah, they're understanding.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing. Powerful.
Yeah, it is powerful. Yeah, but you told me that you also have received students who are diagnosed with ADHD.
Right. That's really been really interesting to learn about. The way it started was I had a student who was playing with her hairband. She had her hair in a ponytail. She took it out, and while we were doing the warming up, she was playing with the ponytail holder with the elastic. And I said, "Is that useful to you? You know what's going on there?" She said, "I have ADHD, and this is just really helps me, distracts me, so I can focus on what we're doing." And I said, "Oh, that's really interesting." My son had a teacher who gave him this toy called a Tangled, and it's just different pieces of plastic connected, and you can just play with it. Basically, it's just a toy. When he was doing some memory work when he was younger, I said, "I'm going to find that for you and bring it for your next lesson." So I brought it in, put it on the counter, and every time she walked in, she grabbed it. She's like, "Oh, this is great. This is really nice." And then what happened was other students were seeing it and saying, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, I have this student who has ADHD, and she told me this is very nice." "Oh, I love this. This is great. I like this too." And I started to find out who had ADHD, because if they knew it, if they were diagnosed or even undiagnosed, but they had a good idea, they would share that. They would say, "Oh yeah, that's me too." So I started to realize, oh, wow, there are more and more. I had no idea.
That's amazing.
And I wouldn't have guessed.
And it's only by having displayed
This toy.
a toy.
This toy that they all thought was fabulous. And it's all, by the way, people who don't have ADHD love the toy too. It's not, if you love it, you have ADHD. It was not the case. But when people were sharing that with me, I started to realize that this was common. And people who like to sing maybe like to do a lot of other things too. People with ADHD usually have a lot of hobbies, a lot of interests there. They do a lot. And so I had a friend of mine, Jacinta Noonan, who had taken lessons with me. She's a singer. She's an ADHD coach. And she offered to give my students a webinar. So she spent an hour with me alone in a conversation saying, okay, what are your issues? Do you have problems, with these students? Are there issues that you have? And she gave me tips on how to help them. And then she did a webinar with them, I think 6 of them. They could tell her their issues. She told them how to practice, how to set it up, how to make it easier for them to do things. And they each told me something. So I said to them on the webinar, how can I help you in the lesson? And then they gave me ideas of, it was fantastic. So so some of the things were, one of my students said, I get bored easily. I don't want to do the same song 3 or 4 times in a row. Maybe we need to do 2 at a time, or I need to switch it up and come back. One said, I need to start off the lesson by singing through the piece. I don't want to be stopped in the middle. I need the chance to go from the beginning to the end. Great, I know that now. One said, I need more feedback.
So there was someone with hyperfocus. Like, I want to do this.
Yeah, I don't stop me in the middle until we've done it once, and then we can work on it. So that for her helped a lot. So all of these things, all of these ideas help me with everyone. Really, you don't have to have ADHD for some of these things to be really useful. So now I'm just more aware, and I ask more questions. Do you need things different in the studio, right? Is the ticking clock bothering you? I'll put it away. Just different things for different people. So I'm more open to finding out what somebody needs. But it's so interesting to learn about this, because then I have more toys now for people to use, and some love it and some aren't interested at all. So yeah, it's been a huge learning curve, finding out how I can help people with neurodivergence, really, because I've had students with autism as well, and I just need to be more sensitive. It's great. It's really interesting.
And just need to be more open towards their inner experiences, their world.
And how they learn best. And what's annoying and what's helpful. What's going to be the best way for them to take in the information and learn. Yes,
yeah. I remember you telling me about a lady who was doing movements during your singing class.
Yeah.
Could you share that story?
The gesture.
Yeah, the gesture.
Right. So one of the things I've been trying recently is using more gesture in singing, so that it lets the body relax a little bit. So as we go up a scale, maybe moving the arms out. For some people, pretending to throw a ball is very helpful for maybe a high note. And just distraction. So this was someone with ADHD, and as we were warming up, she was trying different ones. Out to the side, down, up, throwing. And I said, is that better than just using the same one every time? And she said, well, it focuses me on doing the thing so that I'm distracted from thinking about, oh, I'm singing higher and it's getting difficult. So that gesture can get the body to do something that you don't have to analyze. Like, oh no, I'm going to sing a high note. Uh-oh. And then we tense up, right? So if you're doing a gesture at the same time, your energy and your effort are
aligned with your voice.
Well, yeah. Right? So it's distraction, number one. Number two, whatever your body is doing, the whole body wants to do together. So the voice goes along with that gesture. So if they're throwing, for some people that could be awful. That could be way too harsh and cause some tension. For others, it's freeing. And then the high note just appears because you've pretended to throw it.
It's beautiful.
So yeah, so the voice will follow. And that's just a really nice tool. It's just a tool to try and get people out of their heads and just a little bit more into the whole body rather than standing still and performing and singing a song that can be very tense. And also if they need to move around. So that's also nice for some people with ADHD to move around the room, to just walk around while they're singing. That's helpful. So lots of different tools to use.
Yes. And those gestures remind me of exercises I do with clients. And when they get in touch with a positive emotion, I ask them, like, what gesture goes with that.
Oh, wow.
Like what, because they have, for example, moved from sadness to a feeling of being content. And then I would just invite them, like, okay, which movement goes along with that feeling?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just to make it more powerful, actually.
Yeah.
And also for them to remember
yes,
what the feeling was.
Right.
That next time you could make the gesture and that feeling appears again.
Right. What kind of things came up with that? What kind of gestures? I'm just curious.
Yes. Yeah, it all has to do with self-confidence and feeling space in this area, in the chest area, in the belly area. So some people stepped forward, like they were standing there, like I want to go forward, or some opened their hand. You know, it could
opening
also
gesture.
it could also be just really a gentle movement, right? It doesn't have to be powerful in the sense like or this, but it's something that goes with who they are and what empowers them. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And some it was like holding their hands. Yeah.
So many things.
In a quiet way instead of fidgeting.
Calmer or
calmer.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
So gestures, I think gesture is really nice. I think, there are cultures that use hands more in speaking. And it's really, it relays a lot, right? The use of your hands. So it's the same for singing. And sometimes for speaking as well. To use a gesture is helpful.
Yeah, it does.
Like it does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I was thinking at the same time, storytelling. And
right.
Yes.
Hands are useful. The face is useful.
Right. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, so we've dived into working with ADHD students. It's a wonderful world to work with all these different types of brains, and
it is
what we can learn from that. As therapists, as teachers.
Yeah.
And talking about teaching, moving to the next subject.
Right.
Yeah, because you've shared with me that for the past years, I don't know how long, you've been experimenting more with different teaching techniques.
It's more recent than that. It hasn't even really been a year that I've been thinking about this, but I have been using some new ideas from someone I was following online who teaches private teachers, and using some of her ideas, which are different than what I used before, and finding them really interesting, and I'm learning a lot. And it's more, it's an idea of student-led learning, so that I am doing less explaining and a little more exploration with them, asking more questions. How do they feel about it? How does it feel in the body? And inviting them to tell me more about how they're experiencing singing or speaking. And I'm doing less telling them how something felt or how it might have felt to me, and explaining less unless it's necessary. So I still have all my knowledge, I still have all my experience, but I would like it to be more about their experience and what they, so that they can start to teach themselves. So it's a way of listening more, exploring more, and asking them questions that will lead to them learning the things they need to learn, so that they can go home, practice, and maybe try things out themselves. So as we talked about, movement is gesture is one of the tools that I'm talking about. Just all the different things that we do in the studio, all the different ideas and things we try, that they can do that at home, that they don't have to be with me in order to learn. So it's really interesting, and I'm finding out more about them. So some people really love this way. They love to talk about their experience, how they're thinking about things. Some don't. They would rather I tell them what to do. So I can still do that. I can still tell them what to do. Yes. But I'm trying to encourage more participation in the lesson. And I want them to start to think about how things feel, how they're experiencing it, what they think about it, if they like it, if they don't. So I'm going to just nudge them towards that. But for others, this has been incredible, and they are learning more, practicing more, trying things out more on their own. And so I learn.
That's wonderful.
From them. And I have to answer fewer questions. I don't have to know as much. I don't have to know everything, because sometimes there are issues and I think, I'm not sure how to solve that. Just like we were talking about with the student who was having trouble with pitch, I thought, how am I going to solve this one? I don't know. Let's try this. So it's a little more playful. And then they can take that home and also be playful in trying to find strategies, or trying to find what really works for them, because we're all different.
Yeah, so what you ignite in them, that also is now opening up in yourself as a teacher, right?
Absolutely.
To try out new things.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's more fun. It's less stress for me to imagine that I have to know everything about every voice, about how to solve every problem, because I don't. And for them, it's much more, they are really a part of the process. They are not just taking information and doing what I tell them. So it's good in so many ways. It's and it makes it more interesting, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, me too. Just listening to you, I'm making so many associations. For example, that you create a space in which they truly connect with themselves, and that intertwines with the spiritual notion that all the answers are within yourself.
Right. and getting to know that, getting to resonate with the fact that it's already there.
That you know what is good for you.
Right. And so one way I can help that is to say, you're already doing this really well. Let's do more of that in a place that's harder. In the music, you're having trouble here, but you're doing this so well. So there's already a knowledge. There's already a ease. You already know how to do this nicely. Let's transplant that to over here, which I think most teachers do. I think this is not, a new idea, but it's doing that more often and building on what they already do well, so that they realize, oh, I already can do something nicely, easily. That's great, because you tend to focus on the things that aren't going well.
So what are your last words towards the viewers and listeners about using your voice with confidence?
I think all of these different things go towards confidence. Trusting ourselves, knowing how things feel to us, using our breathing well, knowing how our minds work. There's so many different things that go into voice lessons, in using the voice well, in understanding music and enjoying it. So all of these things together create more confidence. The more you practice, the more you know how things feel to you, the more you understand how to enjoy. And just the whole process is hopefully going towards an individual feeling more confident using their voice, singing, being out in the world, just feeling good. So yeah, all of these things contribute, and that's my hope for people, is that they go on a journey towards more confidence in general.
Yes, and singing is pure joy.
It can be.
It can be.
be.
Yeah, that you can express yourself in.
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge way of expressing things in a different way.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.